You're struggling to get ahead in life, and that's because you are ignoring this one psychological trait that you can develop that will completely change the way you approach your work and your relationships, saving you years of struggle in your life. To make a long story short, I read many books, listened to 100 hours of podcasts, did some deep introspection, had some unique experiences that led me to come to the conclusions that I'm going to share with you in this video. And if you're struggling to do the things that you need to do, and if you're struggling to improve your life circumstances in any way, then you need this trait more than anything else. You need, drumroll please, humility. I know that you don't believe that a simple trait like humility can be so life-changing. And that's why in this video, I'm going to give you 3 points of why developing humility will help you get ahead. Looking at what the research says, using Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson as an important case study, and ending with a valuable mindset frame that will help you develop humility actionably in your daily life. One thing the research has shown about human beings like you and I is that we are pretty at evaluating ourselves. We always tend to overcredit ourselves and overlook our deficiencies, especially when we are in the public eye. And this natural human characteristic makes developing humility a great way for you to get ahead. Let me tell you a story. I play the sport of wheelchair basketball. I have done for about 10 years now, and my biggest strength on the court is my shooting. I can throw a ball into a small hole pretty consistently, and that is basically the reason why I got to the position I'm in the sport. But a couple of years ago, I vividly remember being sat in the car on the way back from an away game in London with my coach. And I remember he turned around to me, sat me down and said,
"Joel, you're a great shooter. You're going to drop points on many teams, but you can't defend to save your life."
And this was a very humbling moment, because it stopped me from overcrediting the things I was good at, and it made me look at the clear defensive deficiencies I had in my game. And this has meant that I've really tried over the past few seasons to get better at defending, and although I've made some progress, I'm far from where I want to be, and that's why it's one of my biggest focuses when it comes to game day. So the first point I want you to understand about humility is that it allows you to actually improve, because it makes you look at your deficiencies and actually improve in those weaker areas. Most people will focus on what they are good at because it makes them feel good. But humility is a call to look closely at the things you aren't actually good at, because it's working on those areas that really helps you get ahead. I remember Jordan Peterson said once that humility is the courage to be friends with what you don't know, rather than persisting with the friendship of what you already know. If you don't have humility, you won't have the courage to embrace what you don't know and what you lack, and therefore you can't improve. However, there is a problem here, because it tends to be the case that whenever you improve at something in your life, other people find it difficult because it points out the insufficiencies in them that they are not addressing. This can make people envious or resentful, and paradoxically, our achievements make us less socially admirable. To explain why this happens, I want you to imagine for a moment that you are by the seaside. Imagine that you're on a family holiday down by the coast. It's a beautiful warm day, there's a cool sea breeze, you're feeling pretty good. In fact, what you're doing is you're doing some crabbing, and you've captured yourself a couple of crabs. Now for the time being, you've put these crabs in a bucket, and what you notice is really quite interesting. If one crab tries to escape the bucket, it will always be pulled back in by the other crabs. And that's because they would rather they all suffer than one of them escape to freedom. Human beings are very, very similar to this. In fact, there is a phenomena known as crab mentality, which looks at the parts of ourselves that don't like seeing other people improve. So then an important question arises. If we do want to improve our lives, which if you're watching this video, you do, then how do we improve without being resented by the people around us? And the answer is, you guessed it, humility. If we look at someone like Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson for a moment, we can see how this plays out. This man has hundreds of millions of dollars in net worth. He's jacked out of his mind. He's an absolute movie star, and he's co-owned so many successful companies. And if you look at his Instagram, it looks like he is living the dream life for a lot of people. So why, in spite of all his huge success, does The Rock seem to have maintained a good level of social admiration? Well, it's because of his unwavering humility. He doesn't flex his wealth to an uncomfortable degree, and he always talks about the harder times in his life when he only had $7 in his pocket, and all he could do to escape that trap was be the hardest worker in the room. He always emphasizes humility and continues to humble himself by training in the gym. He's always showing how he's trying to help other people, be charitable, and be a great father to his daughters. This man has everything. And yet here's a crab that has escaped the bucket. And it was his humility that allowed him to maintain social admiration in spite of his huge success. And for our lives, we can use humility in a very similar way. When you achieve a big goal, something you've been working towards, do not shove it in other people's faces. In fact, don't even talk about it unless they ask. Always emphasize the help you've had from others and the hard work you've had to do consistently to get to where you've got to. Research has shown that humility makes other people feel less threatened and promotes lovingness and forgiveness because it is the antithesis of narcissism. And it doesn't matter who you are or where you are, nobody likes a narcissist. Now, this third point is the most impactful to help you get ahead, and to explain it properly, I need to draw some graphs. The y-axis on this graph represents your potential, i.e. how competent you can get at a particular thing, or how far you can get ahead, so to speak. When you lack humility, you create a self-imposed roof on how competent you become. Because when you get decent at a particular thing, you reach an area where you think you are good enough, and therefore you don't continue to work hard at the thing and become more competent. However, if you maintain humility, then there is no self-imposed roof of how competent you can become, because you know there is always more work to be done and there is always more improvement to be made. That's why humility makes your potential competence almost limitless. An analogy that I like for this comes from the world of chess. In life, you want to have a pawn mentality rather than a king mentality. Yes, the pawn on the chessboard is rather immobile, but it does have the important jobs of protecting other pieces. And most importantly, the pawn constantly remains with the potential to become a queen, which is the most valuable piece on the chessboard. If we look in the other case, a king on the chessboard is also pretty immobile, but he is the top don. He is the thing that both players are fighting for, and he knows that. So he ain't humble. And what that means is that he is vulnerable. He loses the potential to become a queen, and he eventually gets defeated. Humility maintains your potential for continuous improvement because you persist with the necessary work that gets you where you want to go. If you don't focus on humility, then when the first good thing happens, you will take your foot off the gas and you will stop moving. You will lose your potential to become a queen, and you will be the vulnerable king. Now, all that theory sounds very, very nice, doesn't it? But before you leave this video, we need to talk about the mindset frame that you can develop so you can build this trait in your daily lives and leave this video making valuable change. Now, to do that, I need to tell you a story. So about a month ago, a couple of friends of mine, we all went to Holland on a little camping holiday, also to watch the European Championships of wheelchair basketball. And during that little holiday, I received my A-level results. I had done pretty well. I had received the 3 A stars that honestly I wasn't expecting, and for a good 10 minutes I experienced super positive emotion with a great dopamine spike. But after those 10 minutes, I felt no different whatsoever. And it made me reflect on the countless hours of effort and intensity that I had to put in to studying and preparing for these exams and learning in the classroom for 10 minutes of dopamine at the end of the day. And from reflecting a lot on this experience, I have figured out a mindset frame that will help you develop humility. I realized why achieving one of my biggest goals didn't make me happy, and that is because in life, the work is always the reward. The work is actually what you want. The outcome is simply just a bonus. My A-levels weren't about the 3 letters that I received on results day. My A-levels were about the countless hours of study I had to do and about the sacrifices that I had made. And that realization was a really humbling experience. The work, the process, the journey, that's exactly what you should be aiming for. And that will keep you humble. Because every time you experience some positive outcome, every time that your mind experiences a crazy dopamine spike, you always know that you have to get back to work. And this mindset has put me in a great position to start my university degree and keep making content for you people. And I think if more people understood that what you really want is meaningful work, and they focused more on the process rather than basking in the joys of an outcome, then they would simply get ahead. While everyone is so fixated on their big moment of success, you're just going to keep working. And you're just going to leave them in the dust. Because you're humble enough to know that when you are deep in the weeds of the work, you already have the reward. Now, to build on some of the ideas that I've gone through in this video, I think it's really important that you check out this one here next, where I explained 4 amazing mindset secrets from people who have done some fantastic things in their lives. I will see you over there. Thank you so much for watching.